attendees were there?
It was a very low turnout. There were less than 20.
Okay.
There were folks that did, again, express to me concerns of intimidation by their neighbors.
Yep. Okay. I can't get involved with that.
Absolutely.
So there were approximately
For the
20
record,
attendees. Yep. You know, I asked everyone not to make comments. I don't know what else you want me to do.
And again, for
I
the
asked this
record,
gentleman, he said there were 20 there. Leave it at that. Okay.
for the record, I invited approximately 250
Yep.
of my closest neighbors.
Okay.
And many of them thought it wasn't necessary. We had already had lengthy conversations. Again, they welcomed me into their homes, many of them that were not intimidated.
Attorney Gary, do you have anything else
Chairman
you'd
Bailey,
like
if I
to-
could just address, you know, I did review this deed that was, looks like it was recorded this afternoon. It's not a signed deed. I mean, I could write anything and go to the registry and record it. I'm not saying that this deed is valid. I have no way of knowing tonight, looking at it, that it is, but it just appears to be a deed from Louisa Varnum and her family to Louisa and Thomas. And I don't know the contents of it. Like I said, it's not signed, and you can bring anything to the registry and record it if you pay the recording fee. So I would ask the board to consider relying on the opinion of the city's legal expert, because we don't have anything else other than this. Also, Mr. Chairman, if I could just circle back to some comments that were made that, you know, one comment was made that Mr. Coates represented that he lives on Varnum Ave. Well, I mean, you have an application that he filled out with his address on there, his home address. He owns that property at Varnum Ave. It's a subject of tonight's meeting, and he is by far the highest stake owner in that immediate area. So I don't think he was trying to misrepresent that he lived there at all, or try to fool this board in any way. I think that was just an example of when you run out of facts, you have to come up with something to excite the board, and that wasn't, to me, that was disingenuous. The other thing, there's been comments made that the plan has been substantially changed. If you look at the application, I can clear up some discrepancy as to when people say 20 units, 18 units, or so forth. At the preliminary hearing, which is not the public hearing, the plan that was submitted had 20. That was not the final plan. The final plan that was submitted, as was confirmed by Judy, had 18 units. And the application says up to 18 units. Because at the time of the application, the question of the exact parking, we were waiting on a decision from the city solicitor's office. So we're still asking for up to that many units, or up to however many units that we can show parking for. Valid parking without any relief. And that's what we're asking for. That's what the application says, and that's what the plan generally shows, that those units are on there. It may change depending on the parking that we have. Again, we're presented with a deed tonight. The board can make their own conclusions or draw their own conclusions as to why that deed wasn't provided to anybody else prior to tonight, and why it was recorded today. And there may be all valid reasons for that. I don't know. But to me, it would have been helpful to have that information before, especially since we have information to the contrary regarding that parking on Woodbine Ave. And I think Mr. Coates, in his rebuttal to some of the responses, made it very clear that you can muddy the waters all you want, and when you run out of facts, but the bottom line is this is clearly a less detrimental use than the prior use. It was also suggested that 2 years went by, and therefore, it hasn't even gone by, but a certain amount of time has gone by, and therefore this project or that premises loses its non-conforming status, and that's clearly not true. And that was confirmed by the Planning and Development. So my point in all of this, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, is, you know, my client has stuck to the facts on this case from day one. He hasn't tried to persuade you in a way to mislead you in any way. He's done his due diligence. He spoke to all these neighbors. There's some, what I'd consider personal attacks on him tonight, and I guess that's common in anything that's highly emotionally charged, like a neighborhood plan. But he was very respectful throughout this process, and I can tell you that in dealing with him, he has acted in good faith, and he's provided me with nothing but facts and backup. All the backup that I have, you have in order to approve this as a special permit because he's entitled to that. And I'd ask respectfully that this board consider doing so.
So as you were talking, Attorney Gary, I went and looked back at the original meeting, preliminary meeting we had, the pre-application on September 28th. And as it stated this evening, it states 18 residential units. I'm not aware, I mean, I don't have anything in front of me that talks about the 20, but I know it was 18.
My point was, it was, when the official application was handed in, it was 18. And it was, the application's right here. It's up, it says up to 18 units.
Yeah, and I asked DPD to re-review that, and Judy responded that it was 18 for the units. And the other thing I wanted to mention was the discussion about the Woodbine Avenue. Now, I believe I stated this earlier, but I did ask about, I think I even directed it to you, and then after we had that I'll make sure I'm calling this right, the pre-application meeting, I asked the city to have their opinion on that Woodbine Ave, and Mr. Rossetti came back with his finding, and he also, and as Judy laid out to the board, and she also copied Eric Slagle on this, was the memo from Mr. Rossetti states that the applicant has the right to use the parking spaces located within the paper street known as Woodbine Ave as an abutter to the paper street. The applicant owns up to the center line of the paper street. Now, obviously, Mr. Rossetti doesn't have in his possession the deed change that was presented this evening, so none of us had that till this evening also.
And not to interrupt, Mr. Chairman, but I don't want to walk off with this deed by accident, so I want to give this back to Mr. Paglia, so he gave it to me.
Yeah. He also stated that there are additional parking spaces in the paper street that have been used by property owners of 557 Varnum in the past, which I believe, I don't know if is, okay, the woman that was representing 557. Ken states that although the applicant for 557 Varnum can use the parking spaces that abut 535, the applicant does not have exclusive rights to the parking spaces on that side of the paper street. Also, the deed information states that Woodbine Ave must be forever kept open, he has it in quotations. The applicant may want to locate the snow storage, blah, 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 that has nothing to do with Woodbine. But I just wanted to state that for the public record, that we received comments back from the city solicitor in regards to his review. So Mr. Gary did his review, I asked the city solicitor to do his, which I think also prompted the change in the parking spaces allowed based on Mr. Rossetti's comments, which, Judy, you didn't receive his update till, was it Friday? I mean, this was dated November 23rd from you to Mr. Slagle and copying us.
I did receive a email from Ken Rossetti on Friday, November 20th,
Yeah.
and did speak to him in the office that day.
Correct. But I know I did speak to Joe in the office on Friday, and he told me that he was still waiting on Mr. Rossetti's summation. So we also received the information very late. And speaking of receiving things very late, it's not uncommon for this board to receive things late, whether it's petitioners or the city. So I don't want people thinking that all of a sudden, we're acting on things that just get thrown in front of us. I think I've publicly made a record of this. I don't like things being thrown at us at the last minute. It's not fair to this board, it's not fair to the public process, so that's my 2 cents. Ms. Gary, anything else?
No, just that when I say we, Mr. Coates acted as quickly as he could on the response he got from Mr. Rossetti. He commissioned his engineer to make those changes. There was a thought that it could be done by tonight, and it just couldn't be, and we didn't want to give you half a product at that point. But again, the application says up to 18 units. The plan shows that. That can be revised. That's absolutely not grounds to have to reapply and re-advertise or do anything like that. That's just to me, a scare tactic to this board. But as you know, you've been on the board for several years. This is entirely consistent with how
Yep.
projects go,
Yeah,
oftentimes.
Just to be, for the record, if this board wasn't acting properly, we would have heard about this ages ago from especially the law department. And so with that said, Judy, do you have any comments at all about submission of paperwork or communications, whether it's from the petitioner or any other parties or even from the city, as it relates to this particular petition this evening?
I guess I would agree with you in that we did receive some information late in the process, which often happens with some departments. You know, we didn't receive the law department's confirmation until Friday. And I think we also got late the letter from the city engineer, from Lisa DeMayo, that came, I believe, also on Friday. And again, that's not uncommon for us to receive comments right before a meeting. You know, we try to get comments from the other departments as quickly as we can, and we also try to get the latest plans from the applicant and get them to the board and get them online as soon as we can. So the other thing is that I did update the website today with everything that I have in the file. So everything was on the website as of probably noontime today.
Okay, thank you.
And I just, to reiterate, there was never an intent on Mr. Coates' part to do anything but full disclosure here. He's been conversing the neighborhood, trying to ask everybody their input, telling them everything that's going on, more than they want to even hear. So, you know, I don't think we need to, as
Well,
he said,
you
beat
can
that.
call it hearsay, but the first thing I asked Judy and Christine when I came in the office this evening was, I said, are there any new plans for Farnham Ave? Excuse me, Farnham Street. And there were, yeah, well, I'm a little punch drunk right now. For Farnham Ave, and nothing was submitted to me, and then you showed up this evening, so
Okay.
I'd like to state that for the public record also. Okay. all
Thank you.
set, Mr.
Thank you,
Geary?
Mr. Chairman.
Yep, thank you. Okay, so let's, I believe we've heard from all the city departments, and so let's move to the board.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just have a few follow-up questions to the petitioner or Council Gary, just in reference to some of my notes from earlier. We did make a clarification on the handicap spots, both one in rear and one by 16 and one by, that is going to be deleted.
Yes, there's two.
There's two.
So, and it is ADA compliant.
Okay.
And obviously, as a condition of any approval, we would accept that it's ADA compliant. It is, but we would accept that as a condition. It's reasonable.
The other question I have is, there was discussion previously on property management. Now, I know my memory from the prior meeting was we had asked if there was going to be on-site property management, and I believe tonight it was recorded that there's going to be an on-call Pawtuckaville resident as the property manager?
Yes, he has a facilities manager, a property manager that he has that is on call 24/7, that lives in Pawtuckaville, probably less than, 2 minutes from the property, that would be able to deal with it. But, just as a reminder, he's sinking a ton of money into this. Everything's going to be brand new. It's not going to be like if he moved in and just moved some walls around and they still had the plumbing issues and everything like that. He's not anticipating with brand new construction interior that there's going to be a lot of problems. But they do need a facilities manager that's on call, and he'll have that on call 24/7. And, you know, as similar to another project, would not be adverse to a 6-month or 9-month review to make sure that there's not any ongoing problems with facilities or dumpsters or anything like that. He is a vested investor here. He is not going to be an absentee landlord. That's a phrase or a name that you throw out there when you want to scare people about absentee landlords and slumlords and going somewhere. This project, with the scope of this project and the amount of money that he's putting into it, is not the type of thing where most of us think of absentee landlords and slumlords or anything like that. This is a major project. He's, as I said, going to be the highest stake owner in that immediate area. He'd be a fool to do anything but maintain that property fully himself and be around and be on call. He's not going anywhere.
Okay.
He's not moving to New York or Detroit or anywhere else and leaving it to anybody's hands. He's going to be here.
Okay. I just want to follow up on a couple of questions as it relates to the proposed snow storage areas. Those are going to remain the same?
Yeah, so he has when they say you're not blocking Woodbine Ave, the snow is temporary in nature. Snow melts. It's not gonna.
Right.
It goes away. What blocks that is a dense forest. Those trees are going to be there long after the snow's removed. So, you know, that's I don't see that as any kind of real issue at all. I mean,
The proposed storage hasn't changed on any of the plans. I'm just
Right.
trying to clarify that it's not obstructive
Right.
to that Woodbine access.
if he doesn't have proper snow storage or snow removal, his tenants are going to be calling and complaining, especially if we have a winter like last winter. And he's a businessman. As I said, he's not a fool.
And just as a point of interest for trash, we're gonna just, it's gonna be responsibility of the homeowner to remove that trash and place it in dumpsters.
And yeah, and I'm thinking to myself that's common sense. If I'm living there, I'm not going to throw my trash on top and let it blow around the place. It's my residence. I'm going to be paying a high rent to live there, and I'm going to throw my trash in a dumpster, and I'm going to have my trash secured, and it's not going to be flying all over the place. The difference with this project and the pre-existing use of the nursing home is the dumpster's going to be located in a better area. It's going to be fenced in, and it's going to be screened. The neighbors are not going to have the issues that they were having before with trash all over the place, because it's a different use. It's a use where people have more of an interest in their property because they live there all day long and all night long.
I just want to touch and get your thoughts on the steel guardrail. I know we talked in the previous preliminary hearing, meeting, informational, about that steel guardrail. I know there was concerns of its aesthetic nature, there was concerns of its damage. I have in my notes here, there might be an aesthetic wall, but now
He's taken, on those plans, the guardrail's out. The guardrail's
Yeah,
gone.
okay.
And that was a suggestion by one of the members of the board, and a good one.
believe
And,
it was
yeah,
me.
okay, so
Thank
you.
you.
And then his architect agreed, and so it's gonna be replaced with and you could see the wall, the stone wall. I mean, it's really gonna, it's gonna be a beautiful facade as you drive by it. The building, when the neighbors drive, he's looking for the wow effect, and that's what it's gonna look like. It's not gonna be something that he just paints and puts on a couple of shutters and tries to get as much rent out of people as he can and not be there. That's maybe what the fear is, but that's not the reality. I do have a picture of the fence here, and this represents what?
That's replacing, there's a wood guardrail that will replace the steel guardrail.
And that was the suggestion, and that's, a very sturdy, rustic-looking barrier that seems to make sense, and that you could pass it, when you're done, we can pass it around to anybody who cares to take a look at it from the neighborhood groups. But again, the neighborhood concerns are also his concerns. I mean, he wants to make this project as good and as tasteful as possible, and he's gone through tens and thousands of dollars in this project to do that, to address the issues and the improvements that were suggested by this board and by other people in the community and by his own architect. And he's going to continue to do that. On top of that, there's going to be a beautiful landscape plan that's going to be consistent with what's in that area.
And that was my other point and my other question I have here in my notes. And I apologize, I have notes on many different documents here. As it relates to the landscape plan,
So my suggestion would be as a condition of approval that he work with the city's landscape architect for a suitable plan that it can be administratively approved. And that their interests align on that note, because again, if this is approved, I can't wait to see what this is going to look like compared to what it looks like now. And I haven't heard anybody suggest that it's not going to look like the plans, and he can be held, his feet can be held to the fire as to those plans that you have in front of you right now, because that's what it's going to look like. And to be fair, they didn't see a copy of those. The plans were submitted, but they didn't see it.
They did.
They did see it.
I knocked on doors, I handed them out. Some of the folks that came before you today had copies of the plans in their hands.
If I may take a second, Mr. Chairman, I would like to comment that when the chairman had set out and asked for cooperation, he was asking in a professional manner. Now, during opposition, petitioners, opposition, people were able to speak, and they were able to speak and listen to it in a professional manner. I've been trying to be patient, I'm trying to read documents, I'm trying to listen to people at the lectern. If we're giving professional courtesy in opposition for speak, please, can we allow the process to move forward in that manner as well? It's very difficult when I'm up here trying to absorb all this information, listening to what petitioners are saying, reading my notes, reading some of these documents that were presented tonight. I understand this is emotionally charged, I do. But in a professional decorum, if we could just refrain from the comments and things of that nature, it's taken away from my concentration. I can't speak for any other board member, but my frustrations are at that point. I appreciate your professionalism. And now I lost my concentration again. So I'd like to take 2 minutes, Mr. Chairman, and reserve my right to review my notes and come back to questions.
Sure. Okay, Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to get on this Woodbine Avenue thing because there's been an accusation now, a claim that by Ms. Farnham that she is now the rightful owner of Woodbine Ave. My understanding is, based on the information received from the city solicitor's offices, and Mr. Gary, maybe you can correct me, your client actually owns that portion of Woodbine Ave pertaining to the westerly side of the parking spots. Is that correct?
No, I believe what the city solicitor has said is that he has rights to use the westerly side of that line. So they're saying it's Paper Street, down the middle the line is drawn, and he has rights to use the left side, and maybe the other neighbor has the rights to use the right side. However, meaning the east side and the west side. However, you should note that parking was paved by the nursing home, was lined and striped by the nursing home, was maintained by the nursing home, and all of those spots for all of those years, for decades, were used by the nursing home. So that's why we were waiting on Attorney Rossetti's response to that that we got very recently. And then my client responded right away to that. But if there's anything you want to add to that?
And also just checking with the assessor's office with Susan directly, Susan LeMay that is, she confirmed that this land is assessed to no one. So it's not assessed to any particular party. so I believe DPD has confirmed that also, and so I think that's also important to note.
Well, I know, thank you very much, and I mean, I'm crediting Mr. Rossetti's information that he's provided, and looking at the deed that's been provided, I agree. First of all, it's not signed, so I don't believe it conveys any sort of title and interest at all, regardless of the fact that it's been recorded. And secondly, I'd note that Mr. Rossetti, in part of his memo, states that one of the things he states that notably, the predecessor in title to the current owner was conveyed a portion of the subject premises in 1903, Book 354, page 24. And this deed, Thomas Varnum, grantor to Lorenzo Ayer, grantee, reserved the right of the grantor and grantee to the benefit of use of the contemplated street abutting the parcel at issue, and the same deed also provides the contemplated street is to be forever kept open. Part of the deed that's been provided to us today identifies that same book and page. So therefore, that any such title and interest would still be subject to that benefit and use and still be subject to the present owner's thing. And I also note that the deed also says that this deed is subject to any and all existing restrictions and encumbrances still in force and effect. So whatever this is that's been recorded, I don't believe it has any effect at all, and I don't believe it,
I would agree, but I really couldn't say one way or the other because it was just, you can record anything.
What's been provided. Again, I haven't done a title search myself. You know, I have no idea, but I'm just going with.
I think we all have to rely on what the city solicitor has said because that's.
I would think so too. So that's why I just want to get that on the record, that it appears that the city solicitor's record of title search is correct, and what's been provided to us as a deed that has just been recorded today, even if it had some sort of legal effect, it still doesn't mean anything. It goes subject.
And there could be all kinds of legal rights lingering out there for all others too. I don't know that.
I just want to make sure that that's clear on the record. So, otherwise, so it's been a lot. It's been a long night. It's been a lot going on.
The last I checked, the Patriots were up 10-3 at halftime. So
good to know. So, I'd like to reserve a little time afterwards, if I can come up with something else. But I'll pass on for now. Thank you.
Okay, Sean. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure where to start. I think I'm going to go back to some questions I had before the public hearing even began, and I just have a couple of questions about the rear of the property. It's actually a simple question. I'm not exactly sure how far that new vinyl fence is, where that will end. If it will end right at the ledge where, that little forest area is, to totally shield as much as it can the property from the houses in the back. Where does that fence end exactly?
That's right. The plans that are in front of you, the vinyl stockade fence is noted on those plans.
Yep.
So exactly where it ends on those plans is where it will be built up into. And so that's approximately where the ledge starts. There are some rocks that were from when the nursing home was originally built that were located up on that hill. And so it's going to go up into those rocks.
Okay.
Up until.
Okay, thank you. One comment I don't want to add to the Woodbine Avenue quicksand, I guess, but I'm just a little concerned because I'm not a lawyer and I don't handle real estate, so I'm not sure if even the applicant wouldn't want a little bit more time to. I think if we had all of the documents in front of us in regard to who owns and doesn't own the property and who has access and doesn't have access to it. One of the reasons why I mentioned that, and the woman left, one of the women who spoke against the application, she may not realize, but based on what we found out tonight, if in fact this deed is that was recorded is real, she can't park on Woodbine Avenue anymore. So no one, the way I read it, no one's allowed to park there. So I think that's just adding. She left before I had a chance to bring this up, but it just, to me anyway, adds more confusion to the issue of Woodbine Avenue. So it's just a suggestion. If we were to continue until our next meeting, that perhaps we could have the city solicitor here and/or someone, not someone else from the planning department, but I know Eric Slagle has, I think his name is on a couple of these documents, and so that's just a question that I have for myself. I'm not questioning Attorney Rossetti's memo and email, but it's confusing to me
If I could
as a
respond,
layperson.
Mr. Pegu, so part of the application is that Mr. Coates had asked for approval of up to 18 units. What I would suggest and propose is that the approval be based upon whatever valid, legitimate parking he has for those units. So if it turns out that he has 16 parking spots, that's 8 units. And if he can get 4 more, that's 10 units. But if he can't, it's 8 units. That way, we don't have to go through everything all over again. We spent the entire night here, not just us, everybody here that took time out of their busy schedules to do that, and mostly you folks, for a long night. So what we're saying is that there's a building there. It's not coming down. It's not going to be raised. There's something going there. The proposal is for a less detrimental use, certain number of units up to 18 units. There would be nothing wrong with approving this project for the units based upon the parking that he can demonstrate, and we can give a deadline for that, for demonstrate that amount of parking that he validly has and legally has that doesn't require a variance or anything of that sort. And then those are the units that he can get. The board doesn't really get involved in the interior anyway, so I don't see that there's any kind of harm or prejudice at all. The main thing is the use as a residential use, and what he's going to do to the exterior as proposed and recommended by the board and various others. So I think we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone with what you're saying. In other words, we might have to come back or do it administratively to show what we have, and that way everybody doesn't have to come out and we all say the same things all over again. And, my experience is it doesn't get any more reasonable after people have time to think and dwell on anything that was said here tonight or represented on either side. That's just the nature of an adversarial proceeding.
No, I apologize. I know that was actually mentioned earlier, and I just simply forgot that we discussed the possibility of adjusting basing on what we finally find for the determination on Woodbine and the parking. And then I just wanted to mention a couple of things that came up during the public hearing, and I think it's unfortunate. I think, like someone said earlier, it's become an emotional more than always a fact-based argument. And a couple of things I just wanted to mention. Actually, one is all the members of this board are residents of Lowell and volunteers. And until recently, it was even an unpaid volunteer position. So I think we all take seriously the fact that people are coming before us every 2 weeks, and projects get approved and projects get denied. And a couple of things that were said made me a little uncomfortable. I think one gentleman who spoke, and I think was a former member of this board or another volunteer board, was talking about how identifying the petitioner as an out-of-town developer and how developers from Lowell know better how the board works and wouldn't touch this project. But the whole purpose of this board is that it's the Zoning Board of Appeals. So these are petitions that do not comply with zoning. So the person who spoke earlier, he himself had a project approved by the board. He needed a special permit and a variance because the project did not meet zoning. So it doesn't matter where the petitioner is from, in my opinion. Well, in fact and legally, it doesn't matter where the petitioner is from. But I just wanted to make that statement that, every week developers come to this board, and essentially the purpose of this board is to make an exception, either by special permit or variance, to the current zoning. Another thing that I wanted to mention, again, a lot of statistics were used. You know, when statistics are in someone's favor, and I think it's human nature, they have a tendency to play those statistics up. And then and by example, I'm using the suggestion, it may in fact be true that there's a negative fiscal impact to the project. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. It wasn't part of our research into this proposal. But then when there are statistics and facts around, for instance, a traffic study, 2 different traffic studies where these are done by professionals using industry-recognized metrics to try to determine, no one, unless someone wants to go out and just count every car that drives by and assume it was either there for a nursing home or there for a private property, that's why there are models in place to provide that information. It's probably not 100% accurate, but it's different from just saying, oh, I think there's going to be more cars coming out of this property. So what ends up happening when those types of things get thrown around is it becomes both a positive and a negative for someone who's speaking for or against a project. And the final example I will give is we have had almost as many people here tonight suggesting that the House of Hope relocating here is a good idea, as there have been people suggesting that the building be torn down and a couple of single-family homes put up. So I don't know where the petitioner's application falls, but it's, you know, you want the House of Hope, you want single-family homes, you just don't want an apartment complex, I think. And it clouds the argument both for and against against the petition. So I think that was the only thing I wanted to say. The only other things I wanted to say, So again, I'm still a little cloudy on the Woodbine Avenue issue, which I think a lot of people are, but I'm amenable to moving forward with the idea that's something in process that will get cleared up. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I just want to say, thank you to the neighbor that came out and spoke. I know it's not always an easy thing to come out and speak in public, whether you're for or against a project. And, I also want to just say to the petitioner, I appreciate all the plans, all the updates, all the things we got tonight. I wish we got them sooner, but that's kind of an internal issue we've been having to deal with. But, I think there's a lot that's been said tonight about this project. And, if it was something, more palatable, like the House of Hope or, like a police precinct or something, or, maybe people be more apt to support it. But, I think, this is not a bad project for this particular parcel. There could be less desirable things on this lot. There could be, I think someone said, like a homeless shelter or, a medical marijuana dispensary, whatever. But I can only vote on what's in front of me. And, and I also want to say to the people who, who felt, upset or offended or a little intimidated by Mr. Coates, I get the feeling. I mean, it's 6, 7 at night, it's maybe dark out and you feel something, fraudulent or illegal is going on, whatever. But to Mr. Coates, I do want to say that, I think what you feel, sir, is not the reflection of the community of the city. I think the city as a whole is very welcoming and opening to people from different backgrounds and different cultures. So I do apologize that you felt, disrespected anyway. But for me, I think I'm gonna vote this petition based on its merit and the information that I have. So those are all the comments I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just have I have a few questions. I'd like to understand a little bit more, if I could, about the Hawk Valley Farm and the wildlife corridor, and whether that currently exists as a wildlife corridor in its condition today. I don't know if Jane, if you're available to speak to that, maybe, because I do know my parents live in the Grandview apartments, and we've noticed wildlife over there in that beautiful stretch of land, and it has to get there some way, and this is the answer, I think, and so I'm guessing that it exists. If you could just maybe speak to its success as a corridor, even in its present condition, maybe, if that's
Yeah, it's,
current?
I understand that it's hard to envision it, and it's actually probably hard to document. It is more of a vision, and it's really more about connectedness of open space. And if you don't have opportunities and corridors, you can't make those connections. And I think we've worked really hard with Pawtucketville especially to envision a broader connectedness within the neighborhood, and there are some really wonderful opportunities within the neighborhood to do that. I will tell you that we do a wildlife tracking program every year at Hawk Valley Farm, and the diversity there has been stunning in terms of what we've found, from fisher cat to fox. Deer are there all the time. You can see deer almost like tunnels, which are pretty neat, not underground, but within the vegetation. The other thing is that the property, in a bigger picture, is that we've been able to work with DCR, which has care and control of the Department of Transportation property next door, 10 acres there, and to be able to expand those opportunities. So you're right, it's hard to envision it as a wildlife corridor. We're in a very, very urban, dense environment. We got to look for opportunity for that wherever we can. And people are very surprised when we take them outdoors and we work with the kids at the school, at the Wang and Pawtucket schools, that what's actually in their backyard.
But I think these animals are crossing through Varnum
Oh, absolutely,
today.
Absolutely.
And crossing that 90-foot deep parking lot today.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
we'll continue to do it as much as we,
We need to provide the opportunity, and if we block the opportunity, it won't happen, and there isn't anything else
it's a
that
strong
provides that.
population. It's a strong population that's even doing it today, which is amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Thank you for your question.
Sure. I had a couple of questions regarding site drainage. It's unclear how the building currently functions as far as site drainage, but it looks like from the renderings that you're influencing the roof drainage in a way that's changing the flat roof areas that link the ridge or gable sections, so that you're maybe modifying the current roof drainage system? Is that correct?
No, the existing roof will only be, the shingles will be replaced. So there are 3 gable roofs. There is one view of the rendering, I think it's like from the Meadowview side, and then also from the right side on page 2 that you have in front of you. And it looks like there's a gable roof where there's currently a flat roof. But what that is actually the gable roof at the main entrance on Varnum Ave that you're seeing come through. That flat section will be maintained.
Okay, so we are maintaining the current drainage systems that exist on the roof.
Exactly,
And
no
then-
change.
And then the site drainage systems that currently exist or not exist, I don't know what we have on site as far as catch basins or any kind of systems that improve the water quality going into the stormwater system. Do we have anything on site right now that mitigates any oil or gas that might get into the stormwater system?
I'm not aware of any sources of oil or gas that would,
Cars primarily that would be parked overnight.
Okay.
Would be potentially leaking onto the pavement, and that
got
would be
it,
washed
from the
into stormwater.
vehicles,
Right,
okay.
exactly.
So I'm not aware of any system that would address that exists today. I can check with the engineers on the project. The city engineer also has indicated kind of what the threshold is for triggering a stormwater analysis. So if we trigger that threshold, then we will do a stormwater analysis.
Well, it gets a little tricky, Judy, maybe on Woodbine Ave. It's not, who's responsible for the pavement on Woodbine Ave? And then who's responsible for the potential, gas or oil that gets into the stormwater system from Woodbine Ave?
Well, I think Mr. Coates is right that because the nursing home property is so old, there's probably not any stormwater system there. And so that if anything, that there may be some manholes or catch basins that direct flow right into the city's system. So as far as Woodbine Ave is concerned, again, I would just have to rely on the opinion of the city solicitor. That's Paper Street, and that, each abutter owns up to the center line. So each abutter is responsible for their portion.
Okay. All right. So, but right now, you don't have a plan to deal with improving the drainage system that currently exists?
That is correct. There is no plan, and there are no changes that would trigger the city engineer's threshold for a stormwater analysis at this point.
Okay.
But there are no systems that exist.
So the documents that I see right now are representing, I think, 13 or up to 18 apartments. Judy, how does that work as far as parking quantity? Is that 2 per apartment regardless of quantity of bedrooms? Is that what our code is?
It's, yes, 2 spaces per unit.
Regardless of whether it's a 1-bedroom or a 3-bedroom?
It's 0.75 per bedroom. The greater of
The greater, yes.
the greater of
that is
2
correct.
parking spaces per unit, or 0.75 spaces per
Per bedroom.
bedroom.
Right.
So a 2-bedroom be 1.5.
I guess I'd like to have a better plan in front of us that understands exactly what's up for approval here or a special permit. Because 13 units, but they're all broken down differently as far as some are 3 bedrooms, some are 2, some are 1. And then the parking count is sort of fixed at 27, is that correct?
Correct.
But we don't really know what we're saying we're approving as far as the unit that goes with that number, right? Because you have a plan here that represents 18 units with it broken down. Although you do have this here, maybe this is on my key. So you have 13 units, one of them's 3-bedroom, 2 are 8, 1 is 2-bedroom, and 3 are 1-bedroom. Okay, so that's what we're approving then for the 13.
That's correct.
Okay. And what that means is that there's 5 other units in the building that don't get resolved right now because you don't have a parking ratio or parking allotment for them.
I think pragmatically speaking, there are 5 additional theoretical units that would exist if we went up to 18 units. If we were at 13 units, and 13 units would be built, and those 13 units would be larger units. So there wouldn't be space reserved for another 5 additional potential units. It's going to either be built as 13, 14, 15, whatever we have sufficient parking for.
I guess I'm having trouble with this gray area that's created by not really understanding the total number of parking.
Okay.
And I wish we had a document that would be clear on what you're going to do.
Got it.
That has the specific number of parking spaces that you know you can have, and you understand what you're putting in there for units.
Got it. Understood. And I think Attorney Geary's point was to say that we're asking for approval up to 18 units with the condition for review of final parking plans. But if that's not something that's possible now, that's,
Because that, to me, that triggers the whole water quality issue with, if you're going to be adding parking, then you're going to be dealing with drainage. How are you dealing with the drainage? I'd like to have all that together,
got it.
rather than just kind of say, we'll get to it someday down the road and maybe
Sure.
look at it in a review. I don't like that process at
Okay.
all. I do like the design a lot.
Okay,
And
thank
I
you.
do side with your neighbors, fellow architects, that recognize the adaptive reuse of this building as being such an easy. And my parents residing over at Grandview Luxury Apartments are doing well in this neighborhood. And there's a need. I feel there's a need in, at least where my Grandview is. I'm imagining that it could possibly be here too.
Yes,
That's all I had. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move it back to Gary, please.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, one of my points, and my colleagues have had the open conversation, and I appreciate Mr. Callahan's insight as it relates to that, the submitted deed tonight. I was under the same mindset and thought process of what has been concurred tonight by Mr. Callahan and Mr. Gary, and then in reflection to the letter from the law department, makes it a little clearer for me as I'm able to have that thought process through, as that kind of led some doubt and some wonderment to me of when that document was submitted, because it came with some value. It came with conservation information, it came with green space information, it came with historical value. But you always have to go to the document. You have to go to what is in writing and what makes it valid, and what's referred to us tonight is what we rely on as board members, which is provided to us by DPD and the law department. So I appreciate the opportunity to go back to that point. The other concern I did have was the rendition on that flat roof, which looks like a gable. Is stormwater was on one of my plans, and knowing Mr. McCarthy, I knew that was coming, so I'm appreciative of him that I wasn't able to find it in my notes, but I did have some concerns about that, but that it relegates back to the original use of property. So I got 7 bullet points here on my notes. I do believe I resolved them all, and I appreciate the opportunity to reserve that time, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing further at this time.
Thank you. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything further, but I want to thank Member Perrin for his kind words. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Where do I start? Okay. All right. Well, there's many directions I can start, but I guess I'll start with this. The number of units, let's start with 13 that was discussed this evening. So Judy, I'm going to have a question for you. In your breakdown this evening, you showed a breakdown of the 13. You talked about 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. Can you tell me how you come up with the breakdown? The total number of units by bedroom?
Of those units?
Yeah.
I can we can
How
address that.
did you come to the 3 1s and 1 2 and 8 2s and 1 3s? And this was on the GPG company's responses.
Right, yep.
Yep.
So we try to react as quickly as possible, number one, to solidify the plans as much as possible, given the recent events. The new unit mix is based on some really quick responding and quick thinking on the part of our architect. And so we've essentially come up with a preliminary floor plan, which has not been put into CAD yet, but is based on a drawing that's in my hand. And that's where the new unit mix comes from. You'll have 13 much larger units. And we have approximate square footages for each of those units, which I believe are also in my response.
Okay, so the reason why I ask is when the, from Mr. Gary, so there were two on the pre-application and then the actual application, September 18th and then October 23rd. There was a breakdown, Attorney Gary, between zoning and use, and then there was the plan changes to the building and parcel. And in there, and this is when originally we were talking about the 18 units, it said at least 60% of the units designated as one-bedroom units. So I was just curious, how did the single units, now that we're talking 13 and we're talking 5 less units, how did the numbers basically reverse from 2-bedroom to 1-bedroom?
That 60% number was tied to 18 units. So at 18 units, more.
Right. You had 60% for 1-bedroom for 18 units.
Right. So at 18 units, we're making a statement of more than 60% of the units, at least 60% of the units would be 1-bedrooms, and that's for 18 units. When you go to 13 units,
Yep.
you still have the same gross square footage. We're just reducing the number of units, so each unit grows. So now we have, at 13 units, you would have 1 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 8 2-bedroom, 2-baths, 1 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and 3 1-bedroom, 1-baths.
Okay. I'm just making sure I understand what we're trying to say here.
Got
At
it.
least 60% of the units designated as 1-bedroom. I took that as you're going to have almost 2/3 are going to be 1-bedrooms.
At 18 units.
Yeah, okay, so you got 5 less units. I'm just, if you were to break it down, it looks like you're down to, on your new plan, you have how many single units now? You're down to 3, right?
That's right, down to 3.
Yep, okay. Which isn't 60%, that's, unless I'm missing something.
No, what I'm trying to point out is the comment in the original letter to the board is that the 60%, at least 60% 1-bedrooms is in the situation of 18 units. So that, those two things are inextricably tied together.
Yep, okay. Judy, so the breakdown that they currently have right now that was dated from November 20th, I know we're talking about 27 spots, parking spots for the 13 units, correct? Do they meet the requirements for the breakdown that they have between 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 1-bedroom?
Yeah, I mean, for 13 units, I mean, I haven't done the 0.75 calculation on this myself. I'm just basing it on 2 parking spaces per unit. You know, they meet it with 27 spaces. Again, I haven't done the 0.75 calculation. That'd be 25?
Yeah, it'd be 25 total bedrooms at 0.75 comes out to 18.75, so we round up to 19. So based on bedrooms, it would be 19, so we would go by units because it's higher at 26.
So they have sufficient parking?
For 13 units,
13,
yes.
right.
Okay. Nobody asked the question, I just wanted to I saw the breakdown, I just want to make sure, A, we were meeting the parking requirements.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could just address something, Said may already have done it, but when you were talking about the suggestion we put in the letter about 60% one-bedrooms based on 18 units, when it goes from 18 units down to the 13 units, there's a substantial increase of vacant square footage that you couldn't really have a 1,500 square foot one-bedroom, it wouldn't make sense. So, you know, that, just the amount of bedrooms just increases to use that space properly or efficiently.
Right, but we don't know right now if you're going to have 13 or 18, because there's still something about the parking, right?
There's still something
Because
about the parking.
I hate to say this, but the Woodbine may change again. I don't know if it's going to. I can only go
None of us
on
know,
what I know right now. You've already made accommodations for losing, I'm going to call it that right-hand side that you thought you had. Your 27 includes, what's it, 9 on that side or 10? 10 on that side, right?
Yep. And then
The
17
westerly
on
side.
the other.
Yep. Okay. All right.
Am I missing something about the math? The parking only requires 18 parking spaces? The .75 times 24 is 18?
Oh, I did it on my phone, so I gotta double check here.
And we have 27 parking spaces shown?
No, I said there were 25 bedrooms,
Okay, times,
so you need .75 per bedroom, so 25 times .75 is 18.75.
what, parking spaces required?
Right, so we round up to 19.
But we're showing,
But since 2 per unit at 13 units would give us 26, we go with a higher number.
so it's one or the other? It's 2 per or, whichever's higher.
Whichever's higher, yep.
Thank you very much.
No, it's all right.
Okay.
Reading is fundamental, right?
It's not easy.
You know. Okay, all right.
Could I ask for clarification on, no, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so, so I believe, you know, Dennis was asking some questions around runoff, stormwater, those kinds of things. Mr. Geary, there was, Judy issued a memo today on November 23rd. Did Mr. Geary get a copy of that?
I got a copy of that
Okay.
at some point today, yes.
Yep, okay. And the city engineer's comments, which Lisa DeMayo issued comments on last Friday. So did you get a chance, you and your client get a chance to look through those?
My client did. I was tied up, but he's able to address that memo.
Okay, I don't have any specific questions,
But
but
I did get it, yes.
everything that was outlined by the city engineer, are there any issues either you or your client have with what Ms. DeMayo pointed out here?
No issues, we
Okay,
accept the
so
feedback.
they're going to be part of the conditions. That's the reason why I'm asking. I'm giving you the opportunity if you don't agree with the comment by the city engineer.
Any requirements, we will look to fulfill them.
Yep, okay. And, so Judy, the comment about the board may wish to condition a decision with the requirement that the final plan be reviewed and approved by the city engineer. So that means the city engineer, the plans that were submitted this evening, Mr. Mayo will take a second look at those, right? So just want to make sure.
Can
you
I
understand
clarify, is that, so that doesn't push your decision of the board over to that of the, I just want to make sure, the way I
No,
read
my
that,
expectation is that the city engineer comes up with, I guess I'm going to call it additional findings from what she's already investigated, that your client is basically going to have to meet those. Now, if for some reason he can't meet them, then he won't get the special permit.
so I guess my issue with that is that
Okay.
it's a problem, because
Yep.
it puts the control, the ultimate decision on the city engineer, on on this project. I don't know what the
Well,
issue.
no, I guess if the city engineer sits down with your client and then they have a discussion over a certain point, I mean, they have to come to a conclusion, correct? Now, your client might not like the conclusion, but I don't think it's unreasonable for what I'm asking. I'm just, again, going on what was issued. This is what happens when we get down to the last minute with things being issued. That's why I made it perfectly clear. This was dated November 20th, Friday.
Right.
The two-page document that you said your client looked at. And then Judy issued this one today, November 23rd, and there's section 2 is on the city engineer has reviewed the project and basically states some of the things that were mentioned, and then the board may wish to consider a decision whether a requirement that the final plan be reviewed. So, in other words, things get changed and the city engineer didn't see it, and then all of a sudden somebody says, oh, how did that get through?
I'm just reluctant, Mr. Chairman, to leave a wide open decision to a party other than this board. I mean, I would agree that if there's an issue, there's administrative review. Certainly, he'd follow any of the requirements of that required to get a CO, a occupancy certificate, or anything like that. But with it's wide open with the engineer. I mean, what could it involve? Is my question. I mean, if he's not planning on doing any kind of paving or anything like that, so I'm not positive as to what the scope of her authority would be. If you grant that as a condition, or any other person, not just particularly the engineer, but any other person that they have final decision-making authority, it kind of leaves everything in their hands and not the board's hands. So I would agree to some language where it's anything that's related to engineering that he plans on doing has to first have engineering approval before he does it, or he can't go forward. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm just concerned that an unreasonable requirement could be made by a third party, whether it be, the city engineer, city traffic department, or, the law department, or anybody that takes the decision-making authority from this board and puts it in the hands of another person, who then is subject to the regular pressures of anybody.
But I don't think I've heard one thing, especially from the exterior. And I know Dennis just asked about the runoff, and I believe your client answered the question to that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not aware of anything else that you're proposing to change that should change the observation for the city engineer.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is as proposed, and he doesn't have he doesn't propose to do anything to that.
So Judy, since you put the letter together, not to put you on the spot, but who else am I gonna look at, right? I mean, this has come up before in meetings that, a re-review. Now, I don't think there's anything that's been proposed that would change, the city engineer wouldn't see any material change from the last plan that was submitted to this evening that the petitioner submitted. Am I incorrect in stating that? Again, I'm just going on what was written up.
I think it's quite often the practice that a decision will be, have a condition that a final review has to be done by the city engineer, because often a plan will come before the board that the engineer has not reviewed. And I think in this case, she might have been under the impression, looking at earlier versions of the plan, that there was some new paving being added, where I corrected her and I said, all the paving that's on the plan is paving that's already there. So I know that she had looked at some earlier versions of the plan. So looking at a later version, she might have a change that she would require having to do with stormwater. And if an issue becomes contentious, then the applicant always has the option of coming back to the board and having the board decide it. But it's usually doesn't come to that. Usually it's a very amicable exchange that we have with the city engineer.
Well, to your point, I don't recall that, I could be wrong, but I don't recall that ever happening since I've been on the board.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just to clarify the scope of the changes that we're presenting tonight, the scope is limited only to the interior of the building. And that's changing the unit count from 18 to 13. Just to be clear on what the scope of that change is, there are no exterior changes that have been submitted to anyone in the city since, I believe, the October 23rd submittal date. And so we have not presented any exterior changes that should cause any change in people's opinions of the project. I think from conversations with DPD, I think Ms. DeMayo gave the plans, the same plans, a deeper review, and then came back with input, further input. But initially, those plans that she reviewed were the same plans that she reviewed the second time around. We've submitted nothing new in the exterior of the building. The plans that I handed out today were only because I believe there was a miscommunication, and I was under the impression that the board was going to have hard copies. Thank God I had hard copies printed out, so that's what I provided tonight. But those are the same plans that were submitted on October 23rd, a month ago.
So, Judy, Mr. Mayo, did she review, I'm going to call it the first set of plans, or the set of plans we saw this evening?
I think the site plan that I saw that was given to the board has today's date on it. That's November 23rd.
That is correct, and so.
So she has not seen that plan.
And we can quantify those changes. So I stand corrected in that there were 3 changes that Judy requested that I make. And those 3 changes were, we added item number 17 to the revision list so that it was called out and it was explicit that a concrete walkway on the Metaview side of the building was deleted. So we added that note. That was change number 1 of 3. Change number 2 was that there was a concrete patio to the right of the main Varnum entrance, where there was a difference between the architectural plans and the site plan. Architectural plan showed it abutting a wall, and the site plan showed a space between the wall and the patio. I had the site plan updated to abut against the wall. Change number 3 that you requested was that we add dimensions for all decks and patios. Those were the 3 changes to those site plans. So there are no material changes to those plans. And those plans that you see in front of you that have today's date were requested of me, and I met that request.
Which, based on everything you just said, there shouldn't be any issue then. That's why I don't see why the city engineer should come back with something totally brand new. So,
I wouldn't anticipate it, but I mean,
but I think.
thinking it through, I think it is a reasonable
Yep.
request.
Mr. Chairman, there is a square footage number that seems to be bouncing around a bit. The document that you responded to, item number 1, you list the square footage as 18,680 gross square feet. But the site plan, I think, listed at 18,330, so there's a 350 square foot addition implied there? Is that correct?
So you're saying the site plan is about 300 square feet less?
The site plans that I see, the larger one especially, says 18,330 square feet. And the document that you provided, your responses to the comments, lists the 13 total units adding up to 18,680 gross square feet.
Got it. So there's a discrepancy of about 300 square feet.
350, right, of added square feet that you're implying here.
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what that source of the discrepancy is just yet, but what I can tell you is that there is a metal shed at the rear of the building that is getting removed, and that's itemized in revision list for the site plan. So that could account for some of that square footage, but again, I would have to look into it to be certain.
Swinging the other way, the site plan is less than the.
Than what I'm showing in my square footage, right?
Yours is high, okay, so, I don't,
The site plan has that metal, one-story metal room removed. So that would be the reason why it could be less.
okay.
I don't know what the source of the discrepancy is, like I said, but that could be it. If the site plan has it removed, which it does, then it could be why it's lower.
So we also received fire department. I don't know if you already mentioned this, Mr. Gary, but fire department responded, and they had no issues, and also wastewater utility had no issues. I know I've already mentioned this before, but there was a traffic study done by your client, and then the city traffic engineer provided his comments. They were pretty much in agreement that there were no traffic issues or mitigation that would be brought up with this project. So I want to next move into, there was some opposition, obviously, that was here this evening, and I just want to kind of run through some of the items I believe I heard, and, obviously use those in conjunction with this review. But there were comments regarding, the timing of the revised plans. There was a comment about city departments issuing their summaries and conclusions. There was also the issue of submittal of paperwork within certain city requirements. The property was purchased again in 1 month. What month and what year?
It was,
Which year was it purchased?
Yeah.
September 2014.
Okay. And so there was a comment about, so approximately you've had it a little bit over a year, that, it's a boarded-up building, and, the grass hasn't been cut. It's been left in that position for a year. Another comment was that the neighborhood would prefer a working, active nursing home. Also, there's no desperate need for housing in the city. The nursing home was a community partner. I guess the assumption is that this location would not be suitable as a community partner. No social, economic, or community needs would be met by the petition. The traffic study was inconclusive. As I just stated, there were 2 reviews, both an independent and a citywide study conducted. Parking would be detrimental. There's only 17 parking spaces being provided. There are 27. The smell of the dumpster, which would impact the neighbors in back. Inadequate snow storage. The snow storage, I believe we addressed that. Putting sidewalks in. Now, I know at the pre-application meeting we talked about the sidewalks. What is there any plan that your client has for on Varnum Ave or on Woodbine for sidewalks?
Currently, there are no requirements for any sidewalks
Correct.
of that nature, and we did not add any to the plan.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Because I believe at that pre-application, I talked about the sidewalks, how it's interesting on one side of the street of Varnum Ave, you got sidewalks, and then on the other side, you know, from Low General down to a certain point, everybody's got a nice sidewalk, then all of a sudden it disappears. So maybe you might want to talk to your counselors about sidewalks, but,
It's very similar on Middlesex Street. Parts of Middlesex Street are the same way.
yeah, well, we just went through that the other evening, not with you, Counselor, with a different petition about sidewalks on Middlesex Street, but anyways, for new businesses. Then there was also some comments about conservation protection, and what this is going to cost the taxpayers by putting this facility in. Visitor parking, now, that's of concern to me. I don't know how you avoid visitor parking, no matter what you put at that site. Obviously, it sounds like when the nursing home was there wasn't enough parking for both employees and visitors. I didn't hear anybody in the neighborhood get up and say what the condition was with the nursing home as far as parking. But I don't know how this board can stop, how you're going to control the parking on Woodbine or any of the other side streets. Again, the enforcement, just like we talked about on Pawtucket Street, you know, the Lowell Police Department, I'm sure it could be called, if there's a violation of parking on the street. I'm sure there's city parking that's allowed on the street. I'm sure people who live in that neighborhood can park in front of their own house on the street if they have to. But that was of concern the first time I rode out there. I can't say I ever went down Woodbine, but I went all the way down, and it's basically like a horseshoe. You come right around. And so it also lent my position of, because the location's on a corner lot, I don't see people speeding through the neighborhood. I don't know where they're going to go, except they're going around in a loop. So I really don't see that, whereas if the building was set further back in, you may have increased traffic through the neighborhood. So, so the visitor parking, you know, hopefully is managed as best as possible. And the absentee landlord comment. Now, I think it was stated you're going to be spending X amount of dollars to renovate this building. Can you just run through that again? And this leads me into like the 13 units to 18, if it ever becomes 18. Can you just very quickly, high level, just run through what your expectations are from a cost perspective to bring this facility up to the renditions that you submitted this evening?
Yes, so just to kind of highlight some of the line items, so new roof, new siding, new windows, new doors, a gut renovation on the interior, all new electrical service. So the total for all of those line items, stainless steel appliances, granite countertops, everything adds up to over $1 million.
Mm-hmm. And if you're granted this permit, how long do you expect renovations to take from start to finish?
I would expect it to be 12 months or less.
12 months or less. Okay. Okay. And Judy, so any petitioner has, is it 2 years once the permit's been granted to bring it up 100%, or how does that work now?
Well, every decision does have the 20-day appeal period.
No, I know that. I know there was a question about, I know the 2 year, I understand what the question was about the 2 year question. I know it didn't apply for this, but if a petitioner is granted the petition, they have a 2 year window to
commence the project.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so is your expectation to start the project ASAP after all city departments have finalized?
That's right. I'm hoping that we will commence construction in 2016.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, on the visitor parking, Colony Park, which is right down the street, I forget the exact address, but it's on Varnum, directly across from Lowell General. They have 24 units and 36 spaces. That's 1.5 spaces per unit. So that's just one data point to help you think about the visitor parking and whether there's adequate parking for real-world use.
Okay. Well, I'll be getting to that. Okay. So that's some of the comments I heard in opposition. So I've been out to that site a couple of times, drove the neighborhood, up and down, left and right. So the Woodbine Avenue, and maybe I'll ask Ms. Farnham this question, does Woodbine go out to West Meadow Road? And is the wooded section between the baseball diamond and the cemetery, is that where Woodbine comes out to? Yes. Okay, okay. I took a ride over to West Meadow just to get a feel for where Woodbine might come out to, so that was the only wooded area I saw. So I don't expect at any time we're going to see a paved street going down Woodbine, but I just wanted to make sure I knew exactly where that came out.
There are 4 signature pages. There's a 6 on the front of that deed.
Yep.
The attorneys, I think, know that means there's 4 more pages.
Yep.
But I printed it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So in driving the neighborhood, I not only drove the immediate neighborhood, but I started all the way at the end of Varnum and came all the way up. And I know somebody made a comment about it doesn't really matter what's up and down the street. Well, I know in my observations, I just want to make sure I have this correct. So when I started at the west end, down by, I think it was Frida Lane, there's condo, I believe they're condos. I don't know if they're rentals or owner occupied. I couldn't tell exactly how many are in there, but there are quite a few. It's around the 1400 block. Then you have the farm across the street. Then you proceed, you go to Westminster Village. There's quite a few units tucked in there. I'm assuming those are rental units. Not sure how many. I didn't ask the city how many, but there's quite a few. Then we get down to Duville and Northwood, the 2 centers that are there. Then there's an apartment complex. I think somebody mentioned that at number 887. I put like 12 units. I was just trying to take an idea. Then you have a commercial strip that's right next door. Then, so 2 miles from Frida is your actual location. Then we have the cemetery and the ball field, which is up. Ms. Farnham checked that out for me. Then we have the Fairhaven location. Then we have the Department of Health. We have the Lowell General Hospital. And then directly across the street is Colonial Park, which again looks like maybe 12 units. So if I really look at the full stretch of Varnum Ave, there's quite a mixture of single family. Can't say I saw any really 2 families, but there's definitely multi-units as far as condos or rentals. And obviously there was a nursing home at this facility before too, so it is kind of consistent with the whole street. And now we have somebody who wants to come in and put some more units, or bring some units back in there to this site. So this evening, we're going on 13 units, is that correct? And if we're not talking about the 13, please explain the 13 to 18, how you expect to get to the 18 if that ever happens.
Well, I don't know, depending on what happens with Woodbine Ave. We all have that question as to what's going to become of the Woodbine Ave and who owns it and who has a right to use it. At this point,
Yep.
Because we just saw that deed tonight, and I didn't see any signature pages, but I trust that it has signature pages. Yep. The deed is up in the air as far as we're concerned. We can only go, because that was presented tonight, we can only go by what the city solicitor has told us, and he probably did whatever he has to do
Right.
to check that out. So with being able to use the westerly side of Woodbine he would have 27 spots, thereby he could have the 13 units. If it turns out that he can acquire by whatever rights any other land or that other part of Woodbine or somewhere else on his property, that could end up in a unit more, maybe more than one unit, maybe up to another 3, 4, or 5 units. It could be that at some point he can't use Woodbine Ave and then he's stuck down to 8 units. If that's the case, but that's.
Well, that's why I asked the question, because obviously it could go the opposite way.
It could.
And if the petitioner is down to 8 units, then I gotta ask the question, is 8 units gonna be economically feasible to put into that facility?
I could definitely take a look at that when we cross that bridge, but I think so.
No, I know you can't answer that this evening. I mean,
But
as far as the plans go, you have enough parking for the 13 units right now.
That's right.
If in the event you lose those 10 spots, you'd be left with 18, I believe. Yeah, do I have the math right?
If we didn't add any more. So we would definitely put our thinking caps on and see if there's an opportunity to come up with more parking spaces.
So, Judy, if the petitioner loses those spots on the easterly side of the facility, yet are up against the building, is there any need for them to come back in here with a revised set of plans that they're gonna have? I'm gonna say 8 units, whatever the number is or can they just move ahead and reset their plans and go towards the city for 8 units? If it's less than the 13, I'll put it that way.
Well, that's a good question. It may be a timing issue. If they've enacted the permit and that they've been permitted for the 13 units, and they then find that they lose parking, it could be that they may need a variance for reduced parking.
I know I'm asking questions nobody has an answer to. I could also say there's a document that's out there now that I don't know how that's going to be handled. Is it going to take 1 week to settle that or another 2 years? I don't know. I'm just trying to get some direction here. So as far as I'm concerned, we're here to vote on 13 units. Could be greater or it could be less. But it's 13 as of tonight. But in the same vein, if it increases, what happens in that respect? Because we haven't seen anything for greater than
the application says up to and no more than 18
right.
units.
So the plans you gave us this evening, I didn't even go looking through the interior. I had enough stuff to look at.
Right.
Is that built for 18? Is that showing 18 units or 13?
18 units. The engineer, we didn't get enough time to have the engineer revise it to 13. We would have, but it was too late in the day yesterday.
So before you do any building inside, you're going to have to know exactly how many units you're going to be able to get approval
Yes.
for, right?
Yes.
So if you end up going less than 13, you gave us a breakdown of singles, doubles, and triples with 13. If it goes down to 8, I'm just throwing a number out, you might come back with all triples. I don't know how you're going to break this down.
It'd probably be larger 2 bedrooms and larger 3 bedrooms there's always going to be for some
You'd
one
still
bedroom.
have to meet the parking requirements based on the number of bedrooms, correct?
Or units, the most 2 units. So.
I know.
And there may be an opportunity to add more parking on the parcel, so along Meadowview.
So where would you add the parking?
Again, we would have to put our thinking caps on. I'll leave that up to the engineers, but I know that they have pointed out one opportunity where along Meadowview, where the retaining wall kind of runs parallel but closer to the street, there's an opportunity to bring it around closer to the building. And I know for a fact that the previous owner had conversations with the city, and the city was amenable. I don't know who exactly that point person was, but I can find out. But the city was amenable to parking along Meadowview, and if it's on the parcel. So there was an opportunity pointed out there by one of the engineers. I told them just to sit tight. It doesn't appear necessary at this point. But my only point in bringing it up is that, again, there may be opportunities to add more parking to the parcel if, the engineers really dig into it.
Yep. Okay. All right. So I guess, after all that is said, then we get down to the criteria. And so, Mr. Gary, as far as the criteria goes, did you write up, or did you submit, I should say, in the beginning, did you have comments like regarding the master plan and?
Yes, I had you look at my letter, I believe it was dated October 23rd,
Yeah, okay.
direct
All right.
project benefits.
Yeah, so as that relates, and the reason why I'm asking is, as that relates to the criteria under the special permits, I mean, I know you've outlined the issue around less detrimental and non-conforming, but as far as the meeting the criteria under the special permit, in your write-up of October 23rd, are there any, and I looked through this, and as far as meeting the criteria, do you have any comments regarding this petition as it relates to the criteria?
Well, just that, as I said, direct project benefits, it's consistent with the city's master plan. It's to generate housing, to use existing buildings to generate residential housing. It's going to help bolster neighboring property values. It's going to reintroduce this building into the local economy as an ongoing service need that will rely on hiring local contractors, again, an economic benefit. It's going to improve energy efficiency associated with the building's use and explore those renewable energy solutions that we talked about. And the building is going to, it's going to better align with the character of the neighborhood, because the nursing home was a nursing home and it was more of an industrial use, and the residential proposal is, more in line with a single-family neighborhood. So it meets all the criteria, and especially meets the most important criteria for the special permit, where it is a less detrimental, the standard actually is that it's not a more burdensome, substantially more burdensome use. It's like I said earlier, it's the opposite of that. It's a less burdensome, less detrimental use to the neighborhood, considerably, and that's not challenged.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think one of the challenges for the board, and I know for myself, is if we don't approve this petition, what else can go in there? I honestly don't see somebody buying the property and knocking down the building and starting from scratch. May be wrong, but I don't see that happening. So, you have a empty structure that somebody's looking to utilize, and I don't know if we need another nursing home or care facility. Again, I look at that street, there's plenty of facilities, whether it's, a hospital setting or a mental health setting or even the nursing home setting. So I don't think we need another home there as far as medical use.
Something's going there in that
Well,
building.
well, I think that's the challenge for the board, and I know I've studied this pretty hard, this one petition. And as far as, impact to the city on services and stuff, I don't think you can really measure that. I don't, if this gentleman's going to have a full-time facility there to manage the facility, I don't see where the extra burden is on the city.
Well, I think just the comments you got from the fire, the police, or whatever, saying they have no issues with it. Water department, I mean, it's not a burden any more than if it was, 16 single-family homes.
Well, and the other thing I look at too is whether we have 13 units in there with X amount of people, or we have 18. There's going to be some potentially new customers in the area for support the businesses. Now, I mentioned that strip mall. I think that strip mall's been there many, many years. I can't say I've been in any of the stores, but I would see some benefits at least to that immediate area with additional people moving into a facility. They obviously have to shop somewhere and buy products, and to the petitioner's point about engaging Lowell, I give him a lot of kudos for reaching out to to you, Lowell, I mean, obviously, they're on a growth spurt, whether it's employees or students. I got to believe the clientele you're going to have in this facility aren't going to be students. I think if you end up with a bunch of students in there, then you're going to have a problem with the neighborhood. I don't think that's the intention. I don't think you're spending $1 million to have a bunch of students running around in there. And so my expectation is you're going to have whether you call it young professionals or whatever it is, hey, it could be retired people like me someday. What are you smiling at? Empty nesters, yeah.
And even at the most units, 18, and that doesn't seem like it's really going to happen, but say 13, I mean, that's not a lot, a big quota to fill. I mean, I don't think these apartments will be on the market very long at all.
Yep. But I do expect the owner of the property to take pride in the property and total respect for the neighborhood, because if you're spending, again, I keep going back, I'm taking you on your word, you're spending the money you're going to spend to build this thing up. And with that, I don't think you're going to be an absentee landlord. If you are, then I don't know what to think about that, but the burden is going to be on you if the property is run down and, you know, we have a bunch of trouble over there. I don't have that expectation. So traffic flow and safety, again, I think that was already addressed. There wasn't anything that came back from either the independent study or and we've used independent studies for many plans before. And the impacts on the natural environment, I know Dennis had his questions around the Woodbine area and the Hawk Valley Farm and a few of the other activities going on there. So I think after it's all said and done, you know, I'm going to support the petition. What we haven't talked about so far is conditions. I know we've talked and said a lot of things, but so I'm just going to start off with a few that I have, and then so we have a new set of plans dated. Is it today's date on the new set of plans?
The site one's the 23rd.
Okay. What's that?
These don't reflect the layouts based on the elevations.
All right.
Dated
22nd? Okay.
October.
Oh, October. All right. So new plan submitted dated October 22nd. So will there be another revised set of plans?
There will have to be, right?
Right.
For the site plan?
For the floor plans, they'll be-
If the site plan won't change.
Yes, the floor plan, yes. We can update the floor plan for 13.
The
So
site's dated the 23rd.
So, Mr. Chairman, the exterior and all those other plans are going to stay the same. The only thing that would change would be the floor plan, and that would be dependent on the outcome of Woodbine Ave and the possible parking.
The floor plans would probably be modified for the outdoor decks as well, if the quantity of units go down. So the window fenestration will probably be modified as well. So the exterior elevations probably are not going to stay the same.
That's true. That's true. I didn't think of that.
all right. So we're talking both floor and site plan revisions.
The site plan can be approved, but the floor plans and elevations
Okay.
have to be revised.
All right. So the site plan will be approved, but the floor plan
And elevation.
and elevations will have to be revised. I know we don't have a date, but you'll have to resubmit on those two plans, okay?
Is that administrative approval or through the board?
I would think we can go to administrative approval on that. I mean, we could have the city re-review those plans, correct? Okay. That's okay, right, with you, Judy? Yeah, okay. Then we talked about the city engineer taking a second look.
right,
Okay,
yep.
yep. So I also want to I asked the question about the building, starting of the construction. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but my fear is you get granted and then everything gets approved and then it still sits there. What's reasonable that construction will start after all permits are granted, within what time frame?
After all approvals.
Yeah. So I would say, you know, within 6 months of all approvals,
Okay,
that's realistic, I think.
all right, and that's okay with me. I'm just,
Right.
I
Just
hope
trying
you
to
understand what
calibrate.
I'm trying to get at. I don't want to have all approvals, and it sits there another 2 years, and then,
Right.
well,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it would, yeah.
All right, do you have that? What I'm trying to say? Okay. So Judy, I guess as a administrative follow-up with the board, if you can let the board know once the petitioner has met all the city requirements, all the boards have signed off, and he can start construction or renovation, maybe I should say, that, you know, he has within 6 months to kick that off. But that can come to the board, just so we're aware of it. All right, thank you. Okay. And next condition is so we're approving this evening 13 units with 27 parking spaces. Now, how do we handle up to the 18? We're only approving 13 this evening, correct?
Right, up to 13. I mean,
Yeah.
13, based on tonight's plan, 13 units, no more than 13 units. And if parking becomes available for additional units,
So I think I'll handle this one like we just handled the other one, once all the city departments have approved. How about if you let the board know if the 13 units is, because it sounds like the only thing that's going to tie things, could change the dimensions, are Woodbine, something happens with Woodbine, you lose the parking, and/or you could increase if you're able to, I'd say, keep Woodbine, and then you're able to,
acquires something else.
or, yeah. Then in that vein, if this CBA could be notified by DPD, whether it's plus or minus the 13.
Now, would the board want to approve that, maybe have an administrative approval of?
Yes.
Of a change
Yes.
change in number of units?
Is that okay with you?
Yes, I think that makes sense,
All right.
whether it's up or down.
Right,
Makes
I
sense.
think we need to know, just so we're aware of what's happening, so they don't have to read something in the paper. Any other board members have any other comments, conditions? Hearing? John? Yes, Dennis?
I'm concerned about Woodbine Ave
Okay.
receiving more pavement. The way that's it's stated is that the applicant would own half of, or be, I guess, own half of that right-of-way, which to me might mean that at some point he could look to see if he wanted to pave additional spaces in that right-of-way, which would diminish the wildlife corridor that currently exists. And so I just want to understand if there's any appetite towards changing the level of pavement that currently exists there to increase it for additional parking.
None. As you can see, we gave up the 3 parking spaces, one on Meadowview, 2 on Woodbine.
Would you-
So we didn't take that step even after giving up those 3 spaces, and there are no plans to add more pavement to Woodbine.
Would you be open to a condition stating that no additional pavement would be provided by the applicant in the Woodbine Ave?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
So the parking that's over there, and I asked this at the pre-application meeting, there's a fairly large tree that's in the wooded section after the pavement. Is that in the Woodbine area, or is that on your property?
Which large tree is this now?
So if you're in that Woodbine parking lot as it exists today, right after the paving ends, it's kind of a wooded area there. There's a fairly large tree. I brought this up at the last meeting.
Yes, that's right,
I
yeah.
asked the question, what's the plan with the tree?
Right, and I think if I remember correctly, my response was, if there's a tree there, we would need to clear it. But after going back, I had that same question in mind. I revisited the site.
Is it on your property? That's all
No,
I need to know.
no. If we're thinking of, there are a lot of trees there, to
So
be fair.
it's on the
But,
Woodbine,
yes.
it's on the private way.
That's right.
All right, I'm all set. So that'll be preserved, which is what I wanted it to be. Yeah, no, I just want to make sure, I was just asking if it's on his property or not. Because I prefer to have it preserved, not. Okay, any other conditions, comments?
I think the landscaping, if we didn't already put that on,
Sure.
we discussed that earlier. Well, I think that's, unless any other board members have any other comments or conditions, could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2015-43 for a special permit for 557 Varnum Ave with the following conditions. First, that the conditional approval is based on the site plan submitted dated November 23rd. Second is that the applicant will revise elevations and plans to be resubmitted for administrative review by DPD. Third, that the city engineer receive revised plans for final review. Four, that once approvals are received from all departments, that construction will commence within 6 months. Next, that approval is for the 13 units with 27 parking spaces. Fourth, that as parking becomes available for additional units, that the ZBA would be notified of the change and the number of units, and the applicant would seek approval, administrative approval at DPD.
Is there anything in there, should we have anything in there if there's a reduction in spots if for any reason from the 13?
I thought I addressed that.
Well, I had two more here.
That's the
Oh, you
administrative.
got two more? Oh. Okay, good.
Well, the second, I just have two more, and then we can talk about that. No additional paved area would be provided by the applicant in the Woodbine Ave private way, and that the applicant will work with DPD to develop a landscape plan. So should we revisit the parking in the event that there's reduction in parking, that we get administrative review?
Well, I thought I covered that with, but
I thought,
why don't you re-ask your question again?
well, I thought you
and then
covered it, I wasn't sure if it was covered within the administrative review, but I assume that it is, if it's, whether it's up or down.
Well,
That's a
I
good point.
believe, all
Okay,
right,
we
so,
could just restate that, Judy?
I do have it as you're approving 13 units with 27 spaces, and that there would be administrative approval by the board if there's a change in the number of units.
either plus or minus,
Plus or minus.
is what I
That's right.
asked.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Right, you all set? And do you have any questions, Mr.
I
Carey?
don't.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Chairman Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Member Callahan?
Approval conditions.
Member McCarthy?
Approved with conditions.
Member Paglia?
Approved with conditions.
Member Peck?
Approve conditions.
And Member Perrin.
Approval with conditions.
Okay, Mr. Gary?
Hey, gentlemen, I really appreciate it. I know it's a very late hour. This is the latest I can ever remember the board going.
Yep.
But we do
Well-
appreciate it, and the Patriots did win. So
Yep.
if anybody cares about
Well,
that.
thank you. I'm
Thank you very much.
really looking forward to this finished product, so
Be a good project.
do your best.
Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome.
So they started talking
about 5:57 at 8:30. The meeting ended at 12:30.
Well, they haven't adjourned yet.
Because we said it's about 2016 meeting.
Oh, yes, I should ask them.
Just wondering.
But I was here, my son was up the hill off of his first meeting with us, Florida.
I don't know.
Yes. We started talking about 5.
All right, we got one more section here under other business. We received the 2016 meeting calendar, which I'm sure Christine slaved over. Anybody have any comments on the calendar?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The calendar looks good for 2016. No further comments.
Okay. Appreciate that. All right, there's, so next meeting is December 14th, okay. Are you aware of any, we had a continuance this evening, correct? Are you aware of any other matters at this point?
I need a vacation.
At least one, if not two,
Okay,
additional applications.
all right. So if there's no other comments, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
So moved.